Good morning, distinguished friends. We resume the 61st meeting of Cosac, and today we are planning to have another, I hope, interesting session, a session dedicated to economy based on innovation, technological progress, and social European Union impact. The role of national parliaments in fostering the new economy of the EU. Under this generous theme, we have important speakers, important keynote speakers, and at the same time, we are looking forward to your contributions and your possible questions, as our keynote speakers are more than willing to answer and offer the details you might have. As keynote speakers, we have Mr. Remus Pricopie, Director of the National University of Political Studies and Public Administration, and Mr. Ștefan Radu Oprea, Minister for Business Environment, Trade and Entrepreneurship, Romanian government. We also have a message from Ms. Elizabeta Biancovska, European Commissioner for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship, a message we will start with, and with your acceptance, I ask the colleagues from the technical support to deliver the video message. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please accept my apologies for not being able to join you in person today. But I wanted to send you some thoughts for the discussion that you will have today on moving towards a new economy. And you are right to think of it as a new economy. The economic reality around us is changing with increasing speed. This means that the EU and its member states needs to be agile. Let me give you 3 examples. First, people. We need more new jobs created than lost. But the new jobs require different skills. We need more action to ensure people have the skills needed. There is a crucial role for national governments and education systems. But businesses have to assume their role in this. Second, adopting and leading the technological change. This is about pooling resources across Europe to build critical mass. That is why the Commission is helping to establish an even closer cooperation between member states and industrial partners in strategic value chains. We should build on the success of the battery initiative. That is why we decided to follow a similar approach for other strategic value chains such as connected, clean and autonomous vehicles, low-carbon industry, and hydrogen technologies and systems. And third, sustainability. Your debate on the new economy comes in a very important moment. This week, the Industry 2030 Roundtable will publish its final report. A group was established by the European Commission to provide feedback on the initiatives and actions for a smart, innovative and sustainable industry. Sustainability will be at the heart of this. Moving to a low-carbon economy, addressing our impacts on the environment, fighting against climate change. If Europe can lead this change, we will win this. And it will lead to more and better jobs for generations to come. This is a chance for our future well-being and for keeping the competitive advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, answering those challenges is not about top-down decisions in Brussels. It is about dialogue and discussion, and it is about joint commitment and joint efforts. Industry, EU institutions, national and regional authorities, and especially national parliaments. I count on your further support and collaboration in developing modern European industrial policy. Also by adopting and implementing key industry-related EU initiatives and taking the necessary measures on your national level. So I wish you a successful meeting. Thank you.
I appreciate the inspiring words of Commissioner, and I would like to make a small comment before giving the floor to our keynote speaker, first keynote speaker. I would like to share with you the idea that the impact of EU economic performance policies is a relevant factor for national parliaments' involvement in these policies. Innovation and knowledge are major drivers for competitiveness and smart economic growth. Through innovation, the EU could have a strong economy. National and regional parliaments should act to limit the academic brain drain in the area of artificial intelligence and retain the talented workforce in Europe. The EU must define a clear and transparent legal framework for these activities to be developed and implemented in the European area, as well as a specific methodology for regulating and measuring a new economy with different standards, with the value of trust playing a significant role. I would like for us to have an open discussion today on several aspects of this important topic, and I'm looking forward to what the keynote speakers will have to present. Ladies and gentlemen, from the very beginning, I want to introduce my first keynote speaker in the session today. And I would like to say that Mr. Remus Pricopie is Director of the National University of Political Studies and Public Administration, former Minister of Education and Research, President of the EU Latin American Permanent Academic Forum, Vice President of the International Association of University, and working closely with UNESCO Paris. Professor Pricopie has a PhD in political science at the NSPA, and he is a Millennium Fulbright alumnus. Also, he is a member of the very prestigious World Academy of Arts and Science. His educational background includes a rich international experience, especially in the United States of America and the European Union. The activity of Professor Dr. Remus Pricopie encompasses transdisciplinary research in the areas of higher education policy and innovative strategies. His expertise being closely related to the theme of our session, we found it appropriate to hear his academic opinion. Professor Pricopie, you have the floor.
Your Excellencies, President Tâlvăr, thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to speak today to this very important event. The theme of our panel is on innovation, competitiveness, but as you very well know, these topics can be approached from different perspectives. And I am here to try to build a framework from the education point of view. Being an academic, being someone who graduated teacher training and who have worked in Ministry of Education and in education for many years, but also having experience on interacting with different other entities, ministries, at the level of Romania, but also at the level of the European Union, I think it is important to understand this concept in a transversal way. And also, let me add something. I was very happy and pleased to hear yesterday your interventions, very consistent, and to see your interest on supporting education, research, and innovation. But let me start with a story. I was Minister of Education for 2 years, 2012-2014, and naturally, when you sit on this chair, you have to be aware of the work of your predecessors. And one of the greatest Minister of Education that Romania had was Mircea Malița, a professor on mathematics with background on diplomacy. He used to be a very important Romanian diplomat in New York, one of the founders of United Nations University in Tokyo, discussing the concept late 60s and early 70s. And in 71, he was appointed Minister of Education. And recently, I saw an interview that this minister offered to the national television. And he said, in 72, we have to equip our pupils with the appropriate tools. We say today skills. He used the word tools. And these tools should be so sophisticated that in the near future, they should be able to speak with machines. He didn't use the word computers because the communists didn't allow him to use the word computers. He was so visionary that in his very short mandate, 2 years, naturally a minister has to take care of the daily educational businesses, but also has to be able to build the future. And he adopted two very important measures. Firstly, he established ICT colleges in 5 Romanian universities. So not classes, not departments, colleges. And the second bold decision was to introduce compulsory 2 foreign languages in primary education. And I am a product of this policy, because when I started first grade, I had to learn French, and when I started the 3rd grade, I had to learn Russian. Also, in terms of foreign languages, he realized Romania was not able at that moment to teach English because we didn't have enough teachers trained to teach English. And he realized in the future, English, we like or not, would be a very important language to communicate at the international level. So he met Margaret Thatcher, Minister of Education at that moment, and they decided how to train through lifelong learning process different teachers teaching different other languages and train them to be English professors. 20 years later, the revolution came, and Romania was ready to play on this digital market, having engineers in ICT and having graduates of baccalaureate and of higher education already able to speak in at least 1, if not 2 foreign languages. He was, by the way, he was removed, because he was considered a little bit crazy, and put back in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the office, and work there. So I think this is competitiveness. To realize you need people with skills, and you have to invest from the very beginning. Yesterday, I was speaking with a distinguished participant to this conference, and we are discussing about the competitiveness of the future that we lose today. And that means kids in kindergarten or in primary. As a Minister of Education, I can tell you how we lose these kids, because they will not be competitive if they don't graduate primary education. And we might say, what's this? We are in the European Union. How someone cannot graduate primary education? It happens. 0.2, 0.3% of the Romanian cohort, they don't finish for different reasons. And we are not good enough to put them back in the school. And you'll say statistically 0.2 probably is not too much. It's huge if we start to count each pupil, each person, and to see the impact in the near future. And to finish the story about digital, today in the Romanian GDP, digital is one of the main components in producing money for this society, and also some of the very important companies at the global level are interested to have branches here. For example, Oracle is in Bucharest having, it is the 3rd biggest branch at the world level, but also we have Romanian companies playing globally. I don't know if you ever heard about Bitdefender, which was produced by the pupils benefiting from the policy and the measures of the Minister Mircea Malița. So, I think we share this common idea. Competitiveness starts in education, And also, let me tell you, as a graduate of a teacher training program, I was a little bit puzzled when I attended my first meeting in Brussels, meeting of the Ministers of Education. And there was someone invited, a speaker, saying education has to work for labor market. And being my first meeting, ministerial meeting on education, I said nothing, even though I was not fully in line with the statement. But 10 days later, I attended a UNICEF ministerial meeting in Istanbul. And there, again, someone started to say, and later on a Minister of Education said, we have to work for the labor market. And in that moment, I asked for the floor. And I said, you know, as a teacher, I studied a lot education, the philosophy of education, the definition of education, the history of education. And I think if we don't look at education in an appropriate way, we will do mistakes. What does it mean? After the Brussels meeting, I came back and looked in my old textbooks for the definition of education. And I was scanning a little bit from Napoleon to today in different countries. And if you will do the same exercise, you will discover the definition of education never changed. Sure, wording could be different. Accents would be different in different countries or in different historical times. But the three pillars of education are personal development, citizenship, and labor market. So if we think at education just considering one pillar, our policies will be for the beginning wrong. And let me now, the same definition, translate in different historical context. And probably in my time, not considering 100 years ago, but 40 years ago, for me, personal development was a matter of, you know, inspiration, what I was able to see around me. But my daughter, 16 years old, with a phone, she can see whatever she wants at the global level. So her area of inspiration is much bigger. Secondly, citizenship. We speak at the level of the European Union about European citizenship. That means, we like or not, we have to consider education at the level of the European Union, at least from this perspective, if not from other perspectives, like social dimension and many other. And labor market, when I graduated, I had as a space where I was able to apply for a job, just Romania. Today, my son, 22 years old, just graduating from Manchester University, he can apply wherever he wants. So that means we have to adapt the today education from this new definition, not because the definition changed, but the three pillars change. And also, I was listening yesterday, and a distinguished member of the German Parliament said, we have to consider and to respect the way each country is, you know, managing education. And I fully agree with this. I don't think we have to change the responsibility in the today Constitution at the European level. Education sits at the level of national states. And I think it's good like this, because we have to consider diversity, we have to consider many tradition, history, we have to consider many things. But that doesn't mean we cannot do more. And I was trying to underline what we have done already and where we can do more in order to assure for our graduates, for our kids, the success in their life and in their career, and to be competitive. And I mentioned already the policies on kindergarten, primary, compulsory education, more or less. Each country will decide, but the dialogue between us and to increase the dialogue among us will help each country not to fail. As a minister, I had to give an answer to this challenge. In Romania, 6 years ago, the dropout rate was among the highest at the level of the European Union, 18%. I would like to think my team contributed to the results of today, decreased to this dropout rate, decreased to 15. Also, it was mentioned Erasmus and Erasmus+. I was in the council when the discussion started about Erasmus+, and let me share with you, not all ministers were happy. But there were some, and also the Commissioner Vassiliou was at that moment insisting and underlying the fact, without this global dimension, our graduates will not be competitive. And I'm very happy today in my university, we have students from Chile to China. And I'm very happy the current commissioner proposed to increase significantly the budget. The curriculum. Sure, the curriculum would be a national-based one. But let me tell you another story. I changed the curriculum while I was minister, and I was criticized for increasing the difficulty of curriculum in math in the primary education. But discussing with another colleague, another minister from a country member of the European Union, he said, I had the same problem. But I told to my colleagues in the ministry and to the journalists, what would you like for our kids? To be hired by Chinese or to hire Chinese? And he introduced programming elements in the primary education. I was not introducing programming elements in the primary education. So we have to discuss and to share from other experience, including when we speak about curriculum. European universities. Yesterday was mentioned this project, which I think is a great one. Because if we speak about the attractiveness of the European universities, except UK, and some very few examples in different other countries, as a system, Europe, continental Europe, is not attractive. Look on statistics. I said except UK, where the number of international students is very important. Australia is doing better than us. Japan is doing better than us comparatively. So we have to invest in European universities and to transform these universities in very attractive places where students from different countries can study. Quality. We have already achieved a lot if we speak about quality education. I'm sure you are aware of the fact that in March 2008, the European Quality Assurance Register was established, and almost all countries are part of this process. What does it mean? Regulations on quality are still national, but the dialogue with the European Quality Assurance Register helps us not to do mistakes and to improve each year the standards of quality, not just for higher education, but also on the other levels of education. What can we do in the future? Bologna. This year we celebrate 20 years since Bologna was established. Bologna is not an European Union project. It's a project promoted by initially 19 countries, and today there are 47. But European Commission, European Union has supported significantly this dialogue, and today we can speak about a common space of higher education larger than European Union, where the quality of education, the accreditation of diplomas, topics mentioned by you yesterday, are very seriously discussed. Lifelong learning, artificial intelligence, and so on. The final point, the final idea which I would like to underline is transversal policies. At one conference, I was asked what I would like to change in the law of education in order everything to be much better. And I said, I don't want to change something. If I have to choose just one change, I will not change in the educational law. I will change in fiscal law and look at the American higher education system and try to understand why they are speaking about huge amount of money, which are not comparable with what we are doing in higher education and research at the level of the European Union. The fiscal system in the United States is encouraging donations, support from the private sector, combination of money from universities and money from private sectors in order to develop different research and to get patents and transform these products, this research in products and get money. So probably comparative approach with different other very performant educational system, at least in terms of research, would be helpful. I would like to conclude, because my time is gone. I do believe the next Commission has the responsibility to find the appropriate way to increase the importance of education in Brussels. That would mean ideas, policies, money for these policies and for these projects. And this European University project, I understand tomorrow the results will be announced. I hope it will be just the beginning, because Erasmus, after 30 years, proved the value. And today, our kids can have a more sense of Europe, not due to our speeches or our messages on TV or political debate, but also due to their own experience in other countries than their own country. I hope the European University, that will start tomorrow somehow, announcing the 12 consortium, will be further supported, because 12, it's an important number, but too small if we speak about 28 countries at the level of the European Union. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if there are questions, I'll be around.
Thank you very much, Professor, dear colleague, Minister. The next keynote speaker is Mr. Ștefan Radu Oprea. He has been a minister since January 2018 in the government led by Prime Minister Viorica Dăncilă. Before taking over the Ministry of Business Environment, Trade and Entrepreneurship, he was a senator representing Prahova County. He also served as a Prahova County prefect. Radu Oprea is a graduate of the Technological Equipment School of the Oil and Gas University in Ploiești. He was also a member of the European, and he is member of the European Affairs Committee in the Senate of Romania. Some of his ideas inspired me to ask him friendly and politely to join us and deliver a speech within this session. And I want to give two quotations out of his remarks during his serving as a minister. As Minister for the Business Environment, I wish Romania to have the most friendly business environment in Central and Eastern Europe, a very ambitious thing. At a wider level of EU policies, we support the creation of a European business incubator network. And the second quotation, without rule-based trade, there is no development. The need to have a strategy where foreign trade is concerned is real, and thus the main goal of the Romanian government is to reconquer the traditional markets. Thank you very much for being here, Minister, and thank you as a friend for supporting our Cosac today. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. With such a nice introduction, I didn't know if it's about me. I was just concerned that, so again, thank you very much, dear chairs, distinguished guests. Sorry that being late, but I had to be also for the Economical Forum of the 10th anniversary of the East European Partnership. But taking in consideration that we are in Bucharest and we are having the advantage of such good interpreters, please just use your handset because I will just address you in Romanian language.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here today in front of you all. And I understand that yesterday you had a very intense debate about trade and about the position of the EU in international trade. From the very beginning, let me tell you that one of the priorities that the Romanian presidency had in this area was Europe as a global actor, which is why the role that we undertook to be leaders in these negotiations will be ended on the 30th of June, the last day of our presidency, with the signatures of the agreements, the free trade agreement and the agreement on investments with Vietnam. I will be present there representing the European Union together with Commissioner Malmström. And let me tell you that this instrument of agreements that are concluded and signed can be and is today the way in which we can export the values of the European Union. And it is not happenstance that, together with the Vietnamese, we decided on a deadline in which all the provisions of the International Organization of Labor will be ratified in the Vietnamese Parliament on the 14th of June. The 98th Convention was unanimously approved, which means that the strong message that the European Union has regarding our values will be known in Vietnam as well. Of course, I will be counting on all national parliaments because you all very well know that the process is very long and that the agreement on investments needs to be ratified and debated and ratified in national parliaments. So the national parliaments still have a very important part to play. So I count on you in order to follow all the calendar that we agreed upon with the Vietnamese side, so that the European values can be implemented in Vietnam as well, including those regarding the rights of workers. But let me get back to our main debate today regarding innovation, technological progress, and the impact they have on the European Union, and also on the important role played by the national parliaments in the new economy. The role of national parliaments is a very important one because together we need to find the balance in regulating. How much we regulate, we are regulating, how we protecting the rights and values of the European citizens, and at the same time, how we allow creativity to blossom. Because we need to encourage those ideas that will bring added value in Europe. And we need to encourage these ideas to develop, but within a framework that will be observing the rights of the European citizens. This is a very fashionable topic today. Everybody's talking about it, whether we talk about the World Economic Forum or the International Organization on Trade, because I think you know that 76 states have already decided to start discussions in the International Organization of Trade on e-trade. This is a type of regulation that should take into account the needs of developed countries, but also of the developing countries as well. So, during the Romanian presidency, we came up with two proposals. One deals with SBA, Small Business Act, which has proved to be useful during its 10 years of existence because together in Europe we have regulated in favor of SMEs. You know very well that 99% of the SMEs in Europe, of the companies in Europe are SMEs, and they created over 85% of the jobs in the past 5 years. Those jobs that are stable and that remain in our country irrespective of outsourcing. So SBA has proven to be useful, is 10 years old, but today we're talking about artificial intelligence, about innovation, about robotics, and of course about digitalization. And let me ask you, in these 10 principles set in SBA, do we have digitalization? No, we don't. And this is one of our suggestions, to review together the SBA so that it would include this principle of digitalization that we're talking about, and that is absolutely needed in all member states, so that we will be able to bring SMEs on a competitive threshold, because outside the big companies, we also need the small companies in Europe. And since I'm talking about these champions, these companies, let me tell you a little bit about the second proposal that we made. We looked at the digitalization market and of the creative industries, and we noticed that this market is developing through startups. And these startups in Europe can develop up to a certain level. Why am I saying this? Because when we talk about a unicorn, a company that manages to capitalize over €1 billion on the market, we see that it is no longer European. How did innovation take place in Europe? In the classical way, around universities, around big companies, because they had the necessary resources to invest in innovation and research. But today, a group of people with initiative, 3, 4, 5 citizens of the internet, not necessarily citizens of a member state. They launch an idea, they come up with an idea, they launch it in the digital environment, and then they can get capital wherever in the world. So the government will understand that they need to change their mindsets and take the first steps towards these people to be the ones that take an interest, because it is no longer the case that the startups need governments. It is the other way around. So the idea to create a monitoring mechanism that would be able to select the startups with potential in Europe through the use of the existing network, the network of environment incubators. But this should be turned into a real network, so that networking is actually taking place. And to include this in InvestEU, in the new financial framework, and this is how we could attract venture risk capital, so we can finance these startups that need to stay in Europe and remain European, so that innovation is still European. Because right now, as we are talking, these startups are financed by Silicon Valley or by Asia. So we need together to find this formula to keep innovation in the EU. I think that these two topics can already become a topic for debate, and I am very willing to enter into a dialogue with you, because it is only together that we can find the right formula for the European Union. Because let me tell you one more thing. In Romania, we do have a startup that has become a unicorn, WIFPAF, and they managed to gather 10 million euros as a capital by developing software for robots. And discussing with the partners of this company, they said that financing is not the biggest challenge of the European Union. Do you know what the biggest challenge is from the perspective of the business people? The fragmentation. The fact that if we want to develop a solid European company, including, we need 27, 28 CEOs. And this is the challenge that we need to find a solution for in the new mandate of the European Parliament, of the incoming European Parliament, but together with the involvement of the national parliament. So I challenge you to discuss these topics, and I am hoping to be able to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you for delivering this interesting ideas and sharing with us your preoccupation in your vision on a very, very important issue. Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll start the interventions and the debate. With your acceptance, and as parliamentarians, we all know that our time is extremely valuable and our program is not very fixed. I want to have your acceptance to give the floor for the first two speakers to our Romanian colleagues, because a plenary session is about to begin, and they would like to address us and to ask questions if they might have. So, with your acceptance, I'll begin with Ms. Alina Teiș, and distinguished colleague, try to not to speak more than 1.5 minutes, because we have 30 colleagues who are willing to address our session. Thank you very much, Alina, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. The active policies of the new economy are centered on incentives for creation and transmission of knowledge. The role of the state is adjusting, and this is a real challenge. The competitive advantage of an economy is no longer based on products or services, or on the presence of natural resources, or on historical context, but on innovation, highly skilled workforce, and the use of knowledge. Knowledge-based economy. The new economy needs a strong involvement of the EU on an international level, so that it can transmit and dialogue with other states in the world, and an expansion of cooperation on a scientific plane, so that we can gain the necessary knowledge to have sustainable development. The intervention of the government in economic life is necessary to support the new economy. Part of the young people in Europe chooses to study outside the Union, which raises questions on the long-term perspectives of sustainable development. They think that in order to face this challenge, they need a stronger support for national education in member states on the one hand, and on the other hand, they need that European Union to cooperate with states in Latin America or in Africa in terms of education, so that they have a well-rounded education. In order to develop a knowledge-based economy, it is no longer sufficient to create a new legislative framework in IP rights. The legislation needs to be revised, and also we need to revise fiscal legislation. Thank you.
Colleague, and thank you once again to everybody for accepting that our colleagues from Romania speak at the very beginning. Now I give the floor to Senator Gabi Ionescu.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je parle în langue română. Așadar,
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gabi Ionescu. I am a member of the Romanian Senate and a member of the Commission for European Affairs. I will get straight to the point, Chairman, because you have cut down on our speaking time. Romania is confronted with two issues that it has generated itself. Globalization, first of all, and we have to wonder how far that would go. And then there is another issue, that of artificial intelligence. And then again, we need to ask ourselves how far that will go, and we'll need to see which are the limits to which artificial intelligence will be used. The current session is about education, after all, so I would like to speak about the potential use of artificial intelligence. In 2018, in December 2018, the European Commission already published a document on the issue, so I will like to raise the topic of the safety of systems and security of systems using artificial intelligence, and I'd like to know which are the European and national protection tools that we can use. Then, which will be the independence of systems using artificial intelligence. And then the last thing I'd like to raise for our future meetings is about the interaction between systems. There were events that generate security or safety issues throughout the European Union. That's about all I can say in these brief times, and I thank you, Chairman, and I wish you the best of success.
Colleagues, well, our time is limited by the number of speakers, and it is in the tradition of our meetings to give the opportunity to everybody to address our conference. But I'm sure you'll be a very successful speaker in the next conferences. Now let me give me the floor from Slovenia to Mr. Igor Pecek.
Distinguished Chair, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm really happy to say that the Republic of Slovenia, when it comes to academic research in artificial intelligence in robotics, Slovenia ranks high. According to some data, we even have the highest share of researchers per capita in the world in this field. Sadly, the favorable academic results only translate partly to the domestic industry. Mostly they are visible in the SMEs. Also, the report by the European Commission on Slovenia for 2019 summarizes that Slovenian companies would benefit from bigger investments in artificial intelligence. We can thus borrow the thought from the writer William Gibson, who said that future is already here, but it is not equally present or spread. We therefore welcome the debate on this subject and believe that national parliaments can play an important role in this respect. To remove barriers successfully, however, the coordinated action of all branches of power is necessary, and we need the good financing of projects in this field and also a good management of the national research and innovation system. In 2018, calls have already been published to co-finance research and development projects, and Slovenia has also applied for funds under the Horizon 2020 program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. And now Ms. Kathy Ricklin from Switzerland. Distinguished colleague, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. Friends, I think we all agree. Education, research, and innovation drive a prosperous and prospering economy and society. We're good at basic research and applied research in Switzerland. We're leaders in innovation. We're high up the international rankings. How does it work? Well, it's because we're an open country, and a lot of people from other countries, all countries in the world, come in to Switzerland. They work and research in Switzerland, people including EU citizens. And Switzerland is actively and successfully involved in Horizon 2020. We will want to be a full member of Horizon Europe. There is cooperation between Romania and Switzerland, which is very successful. Cohesion money flows into that. The circular economy, sustainable energy, sustainable growth are subjects covered with Romania. Horizon Europe is very important for us, but it's being imperiled by the international framework agreement between Switzerland and the EU. At the moment, it's run into the sand. We're grateful to all of you. We're grateful to all of you for the support we received in the final conclusion. 3.6 has made our point. I think together we should be moving forward to cooperate, make this point. It's very important to us because we want to have good and continue to have good relations with our neighbors in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind words you addressed concerning the cooperation with Romania, and I'm sure that as far as the last part of your speech is concerned, the future will give us very good news. Now I give the floor to Ms. Asa Westlund from Sweden.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, the Romanian Presidency, for hosting us. Many of the issues relating to the topics in this session is, of course, a matter for the national parliamentary level, but the EU definitely has an important and crucial role to play. I think the EU legislation on roaming fees and streaming services are excellent example of this. We need to work together if we are to be able to stand up against multinational companies, but also in order to keep and develop the single market. In this discussion, I must also stress the importance of a strong EU legislation on environment and climate. By using that, we can make sure that we drive investments and also innovation in the field of green technology. I also believe that we, in the new economy, have to pay more attention to improve equality. This is, of course, also a key priority for national states and national parliaments, but we can also make use of the social pillar and the open method of coordination in making us all better in this field. Sometimes EU legislation is needed in this area as well, and I definitely recognize that, and I just want to stress that when doing that, we must make sure that we respect different traditions in the labor market in different nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleague. And now we give the floor to Mrs. Berta Cabral from Portugal.
Muito obrigada. Thank you, President. I'd like to congratulate the Romanian presidency and say hello to everybody at the meeting. Following the recent European elections, post-2020 political targets when it comes to a smarter Europe, a more digital Europe, a more innovative Europe, more committed to combating climate change and closer to our citizens, well, all those priorities should encompass the whole of Europe, in particular those parts of the continent that are more vulnerable and less developed. I'm thinking in particular about the outermost regions, regions of Spain, France and Portugal. These priorities, these objectives are crucial, and they need to be implemented as per Article 349 of the TFEU. This new economy is essential for the development in these regions. It will bridge the distance barrier, and it will improve digitization and decision-making. Without cohesion, there can be no union. We all know that. Therefore, these regions should be given privileged, enhanced access to EU investment, to Horizon Europe, to cohesion policy, to the CAP, and to programs dealing with specific sectors under the aforementioned article, Article 349. We also need to maintain financing levels at 85% of the total investment value. It's only then that these regions will catch up with European GDP and strengthen their position at European and global levels. Finally, I would like to endorse Amendment 2.4 presented by the Portuguese delegation. This relates to outermost regions, and I'm sure that that amendment will get the support of this plenary.
And now, Mr. Andrej Reich from Slovenia.
Thank you very much for the floor. Digitalization and informatization of society bring about a number of challenges as well as solutions. These have to be taken into account given the fact that we've got an aging society and a potential lack of workforce. Global challenges, especially our competition with Southern America, China and India, have been changing geopolitical conditions and situation. This means that we are going to have to address social challenges that are not only linked to climate change. We're talking here about decarbonization of road traffic. And here we've got a special project that brings about a lot of opportunities that we have to take into account. So these are technological, these are social challenges that can only be addressed if Europe remains together, strong and united. Thank you.
Mulțumesc și eu.
Thank you very much. I'll turn the floor to Mr. Antonio Gameiro, Portugal.
Thank you very much, President. I would like to say hello to all colleagues. I'd like to begin by saying that it's a bad thing that we're discussing or not discussing something which is going to change so radically under the new MFF. We need to safeguard funds in all our states as we move into a new era. We need the money. We need investment to boost the economy strongly. Look at the turnout in the most recent parliamentary elections. The turnout wasn't as good as it should have been. R&D, energy, the environment are challenges. We need a proper fiscal framework for investment in these areas. In the multi-annual financial framework, we need an increase in real terms in investment to help the new generations. Parliament, Commission and Council have a total purchase over all the agendas at the moment. I think we need to move forward with more positive proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished colleague. And now from Croatia, Mr. Domagoj Hajduković.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and let me begin by congratulating you for pronouncing my name correctly. As this is our last session, I would like to congratulate our Romanian colleagues for the organization of this Cosac meeting and also on tackling many important issues. One of those is definitely innovation and a new economy. And talking about new economy, in my opinion at least, is talking about education. So the last two sessions are interconnected, as well as innovation and education are interconnected. And I will agree with our honorable colleague, Minister, who said that the reality of our universities is far from actually being bright. The QS World University Rankings, which were published a few weeks ago, ranked only 3 European universities amongst the 10 best. And these 3 are Oxford, Cambridge, and ETH Zurich, Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. So only one continental university, and let me congratulate our Swiss colleagues for being included. And talking about innovation, education, many of the innovative companies which were started as garage projects. So they started out of a garage, like IBM, Apple, Microsoft. Unfortunately, talking about these companies, I'm not talking about European companies, and that needs to change. Artificial intelligence shall create not only new moments for economy, for market, for labor market, but it will also create moral issues which shouldn't be ignored. Resources are limited, and the main challenge, in my opinion, is how to channel them and use them in the most efficient manner. And this is where I see the role of national parliaments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your kind words. Now, I want to give the floor to Mr. Andrzej Czerwiński from Poland.
Bardzo dziękuję. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've been listening very carefully to the discussion held here both yesterday and today. And I think we all agree that we together as the European Union have to try to meet the challenge of the future and focus on innovative technologies. Why do we focus so much on this subject? I think it is quite clear that in all our countries, whenever we come back home, there is a Scandinavian saying, if I remember correctly, we should not create new curtains when the wind blows, but we should build windmills to use the power of the wind. So now I think that what is a great opportunity for the whole European Union is diversity of the EU. It could be compared to genetics and different genes pools. If we create one innovative program, there will be perhaps a creature created that will be able to compete with China and the United States and build perhaps prosperity in our country. But thanks to using this diversity of the European Union, I stress that. And that I stress also the role of the young people, the new generation. I think we should do more, again, to help the young people so that they become more innovative, so that we create this culture of innovation in our countries. Thank you very much.
Mulțumindu-i colegului din Polonia.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Mr. Virgilijus Poderis from Lithuania.
Thank you, Chairman. The Committee on European Affairs of the Parliament has been proactive in issues related to the digitization of Lithuanian industry. We are in continued debate with the government on this. European Innovation Scoreboard showed that in just 9 years since 2011, Lithuania has made the greatest progress in the EU in promoting innovation, encouraging science and business cooperation, and improving the innovation ecosystem and business environment. The growth strategy is based on boosting productivity and increasing competitiveness. We extend our knowledge-based activities into such sectors as biotechnology, laser manufacturing, electronics, information technology. The Lithuanian industry digitization roadmap till 2030 has been developed with a view to encouraging the development of digitization technologies into manufacturing processes. The life science industry is the fastest growing sector and one of the 6 main priorities for the Smart Specialization Program. On the basis of regular forecasts of economic growth, we hope that 53% of innovative companies will have been operating in Lithuania by 2020. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And now from Austria, Mr. Christian Buchmann.
Dear colleagues, Austria will be leaving the Cosac Troika, so I would like to use this opportunity to thank the Romanian presidency and all of the colleagues and chairpersons for the excellent cooperation that we've had over the last 18 months of our Troika. It was great to be able to work together with you on the future of Europe. Now, on this question, the European social model is one that is being questioned now. It was a success story over previous decades. We had peace and prosperity, and the idea was that that should remain the same in the future. But I think we need to look at a number of topics to guarantee that. We have the multi-annual financial framework that we've been discussing a number of times, and it's important to invest in education, research and development, innovation, and also in small and medium-sized businesses in our plans. Secondly, these SMEs are responsible for 2/3 of jobs in Europe and more than 50% of our prosperity in Europe. Therefore, we need to link up our economies and economic sectors, not just at SME level, but we also need to reduce red tape, even when it comes to our European programs. Thirdly, R&D is important, education is important, and it shouldn't just be an either-or question. I think that both of those things are complementary. A applied research is important. It needs to be used by industry, but we need also to have research, pure research as well. Again, that shouldn't be an either or either. Furthermore, our social market economy will need to meet the challenge of climate change and therefore be an environmentally sound economy as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Lithuania, we give the floor to Ms. Virginia Vingriene.
Mr. Chairman, colleagues, I see the advancement of circular economy among the vital innovations, as it embraces all other innovations and creates preconditions for a closed cycle. This is a priority at the EU level, a priority challenge. By facing it, we can effectively address not only the targets of environmental sustainability, climate change mitigation, waste management, optimization of limited resources, but also those in the areas of economy and social life. We can see all these challenges as an unprecedented opportunity to secure progress, innovation, and growth. We welcome the accent on product durability standards. But it is essential to stay ambitious and demanding, both at the national and the EU level, to ensure the implementation of circular economy goals. We should set this benchmark higher than the present commitments and provide financial incentives only for investments to highest levels of circular economy and environmental awareness. We should not put up with funding of outdated technologies such as incineration of waste, irrespective of the existing possibilities present in the financial perspective. The future financial perspective should eliminate these possibilities at all. In no way can we choose the easiest way, just to be able to tick the boxes as far as the lowest stages of the cycle are concerned. That would be a second worst option. Today, it is crucial that we choose bravely and advance on the path of circular economy to be open to opportunities, full growth, and because this is the precondition of innovative economy and progress. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and I share a lot of your points of view. And now we'll have a point of view expressed by Mr. Elias Miriantus from Cyprus.
Thank you, Chairman, dear colleagues. The next 7-year program for the EU, Horizon Europe, with 94 billion euro as budget, is the most ambitious European investment in research and technology so far. The Republic of Cyprus aims at making the most of this new program in order to promote research and innovation at the national level. It would be an omission from me not to mention the important performance indicators for Cyprus for the current Horizon 2020 program and our participation. We rank first at GDP, at per capita attraction of investment capital. We have an innovative tax arrangement with up to 50% exemption for revenue for small and medium enterprises that are involved in research and innovation activities. The Parliament in Cyprus attaches great importance to dealing with this technological challenge that lies ahead. So following an initiative by the Parliament, we have defined a national strategy for decentralized technologies, blockchain, that is, so that we can facilitate and smoothly implement and use those technologies at the national level. In addition to this, we have initiated good contacts with the academic and university communities around the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution. Dear colleagues, expenditure for research and development is an investment in our common European future. It's not just a cost. We as national parliaments should continue to define jointly this effort so that Europe will become a leader in research and innovation globally. and so that we can improve living standards for all European citizens, regardless of the part of Europe where they live, by providing upgraded high-class services in healthcare, education, and other benefits. Thank you.
Distinguished colleague. And now from Sweden, Ms. Maria Strömqvist.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your excellent hosting. We have a number of challenges, but also opportunities. One of the major challenges is climate change, and that is going to force us to look for new solutions. There's a new market for new smart products and solutions to reduce emissions. Now, if you're on the leading edge, you can create new jobs and growth. Innovation and cooperation are two of the key factors for a sustainable economic development. Our success is based on being able to keep competitiveness in a global economy. We will be competing with knowledge and skills where innovation is in sharp focus. We need to promote developments which bring new ways of thinking and smart solutions throughout the whole of the educational period, right through to university. So we need first-class schools for all of our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. And now from Estonia, Ms. Urve Tiidus.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Innovation and technological progress have become as popular words in our vocabulary as are the words sunny and rainy. The difference is that innovation depends solely on us as human beings, our wisdom and will and ability to cooperate for good results. That is why Estonia welcomes the agreement achieved by the Scientific Research and Innovation Framework Programme Horizon Europe, which, as we know, proposes strategic options to address the political, socio-economic and environmental challenges facing the European society. In order to achieve the optimal impact, it's vital to involve representatives of academia, business sector and industry, civil society and the end users. Close, purposeful and interdisciplinary RDI cooperation among the member states is more than welcome. Estonia supports the aspirations to facilitate both public and private sector investments into innovative technologies and developing digital skills in every age group. It is necessary to finance them within the next multi-annual financial framework, no doubt about that. Thank you, Romania, for hosting the Cosac meeting. These 3 days make one feel that I want to come back one day soon. Thank you once again, and best wishes for your country. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, and we are looking forward to seeing you again in Bucharest. We appreciate the fact that you felt well here. And now let me, dear colleagues, to give the floor to my colleague from the Senate of Romania and co-chair, Mrs. Gabriela Crețu.
Mulțumesc mult, domnule președinte.
Thank you very much, Chair. Dear colleagues, dear friends, the fourth industrial revolution is causing radically different changes. It's destroying borders and reduces capacity for control and taxing. It creates an exclusively private space, that is the cyberspace, on which classical democracy institutions have no control and which often they also do not understand. This revolution allows the digital giants, none of which are European, so it allows these giants to understand how we think, to influence us, and to manipulate our minds. As far as big data is concerned, we have no control on that. We have no sovereignty on that. What is our traditional role? To decide what we finance. There is an agreement that we need to finance public education, fundamental research. These are free. These are not protected by any intellectual property rights. We also finance a very important part of private research. The results obtained by those are protected by very strict copyright laws, and we have to pay for those results. The trickle-down effect that has been so much discussed is not confirmed practically. The GDP has increased everywhere, but inequalities have also increased everywhere. We also need to decide how the results of science is used, and this is very difficult. It's very difficult to regulate this. So the conclusion is that we need huge efforts and smart efforts as far as the public sector is concerned. We need social imagination and political will in order to be able to face up to these challenges. We need to respond adequately to this revolution if we want to save democracy, if we want to still have a good society to live in with good, decent public goods. Because authoritarian regimes will find it much easier to control population with the help of the new technologies. The idea that we can achieve all these things within the member states is an illusion. We are too small compared to our partners with whom we are facing. But it's also an illusion that the European Union might reach a macroeconomic balance by using microeconomic instruments, that is, from the level of the member states. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabi. And now from the European Parliament, Ms. Maria Joao Rodrigues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and many thanks for our Romanian friends to bring this point to the table. This is really important. We in the European Parliament, we think that this is the moment for us, together with national parliaments, start defining a European way to drive the digital revolution. Because there is the American way, driven just by the markets, there is the Chinese way, driven by the state, and we Europeans, we need to invent our own way according to our values. So I would argue that the European way should be based, first of all, on respecting privacy in our personal data. Second, full respect for democracy. We cannot have manipulation of democracy. We need to deepen democracy. Third, we need to prepare people with a big investment in skills, but certainly also respecting basic social rights. We need everybody working in the digital economy should count on the social pillar, meaning a contract and access to social protection. And then, yes, we need strong innovation policy. Perhaps it's too late to have a European Google, but for sure we can develop a lot of artificial intelligence to provide better public goods in health, in education, in urban management, in energy transition. So let's push for this innovation policy, and I think that fiscal, tax, budgets should be aligned with this purpose. So let's hope that the next community budget with the Digital Europe program will give a big push for this. But again, I repeat, I hope this Cosac in Bucharest is the Cosac launching a European strategy to drive the digital revolution.
Thank you very much for offering us the European Parliament approach on the issue we have on our table today. And now I invite Lord Robin Teverson to address the Cosac meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up a theme mentioned just now by Mrs. Strömquist from Sweden, which is the fact that a new economy in the future will be a decarbonised economy. One of the big factors that came over during the recession 10 years ago in the United Kingdom following the financial crisis and well beyond the UK was that one part of the economy continued to grow very strongly at something like 6 to 7%, and that was the green economy, because it produced jobs that were skilled, well paid, they were regionally dispersed, not just concentrated in capital cities, and they stimulated the growth of SMEs as well. It wasn't just around corporate growth. But this area requires research and innovation to meet the sort of targets that we need to, which is carbon neutrality by at least 2050. And those technologies include carbon capture and storage, geothermal energy, new biofuels, marine energy, but most importantly perhaps, but one of the areas that's not often thought about is energy efficiency. And one of those areas is not just producing more energy investment, but actually on the supply side, but actually having demand-side management as well. And that's where we need really smart systems and smart grids. And that's why and where European integration in terms of research and development is so important, and that the programme that follows Horizon 2020 is so important, and one which I hope the United Kingdom can be a part of, whether we are inside or outside the European Union.
Thank you, Lord Everson. And I want to give the floor to the representative of the Troika, Ms. Satu Hassi from Finland. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it's good to continue after the previous speaker. 2 points on innovation. First, one of the yesterday's keynote speakers said that we need a paradigm shift from energy-based to knowledge-based economy, but we also need a paradigm shift from fossil-based to fossil-free, climate-friendly, circular economy. And as our Swedish colleagues already stressed, one way of pushing our competitiveness in these areas is to improve the ambition level of our climate and environmental legislation. I would like to mention that in Finland, clean tech business grew bigger than our traditional backbone, which has been the forest industry. The clean tech became bigger roughly 5-6 years ago, and the biggest part of the clean tech sector is energy efficiency, which was stressed by the previous speaker. And another quick point, very often when we talk about innovations, we think about technology, but we must also remember the importance of social innovations and also innovations in business models. For example, we need innovations in business models, in financing and in investors, institutional investors, in order to build the fossil-free, climate-friendly economy.
Thank you very much. And now we give the floor to Lord Charles Kinnoll from United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'd like to pick up on what my colleague Robin Teverson was just saying about Horizon. It's something, in my view, that needs to be extended, improved and fostered. It's been of enormous benefit to the people of Europe. It's a trusted brand, trusted by the people of Europe, by the universities, and by other commissioning entities in many countries around the world. As Minister Oprea, and indeed just a moment ago, Co-Chair Cretu said, science is a very big game now. It's hugely expensive, and one needs large teams and groups of teams across borders. And we are lucky in Europe to have the ties of culture and experience that enable us to naturally have successful teams working on scientific projects. The UK has been deeply involved in Horizon to date, with a spirit of enthusiasm and of collaboration. And our committee strongly recommends association with the Horizon programs in the future. And I hope that our new government will ask for that association and will be allowed it. I think it would be greatly to the benefit of the European citizens and in all countries. And I wondered whether the panel agrees with that analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Troika, from Finland, Ms. Pia Kauma.
Kiitos puheenjohtaja.
Thank you, President. Europe needs more jobs. This means that we have to be able to renew ourselves, but we also need money. For example, in Finland, we invest less than 3% of our GDP to research and innovation, but our objective is that by 2030, we want to invest 4% into research and innovation. If we look at technological innovations, we can take an example of GPS. The GPS system This would not have seen daylight if the government did not invest into this. And the same comes to IT technology in Korea and the wine industry in Chile. And for the Korean example, investments have been made into SMEs and startups. The green economy is a big opportunity for European companies, and Finnish companies have taken this issue seriously. It's what customers want. InvestEU money is important. One of the problems is that Europeans are not great at commercializing. Therefore, Horizon 2020 money is very important. Then, to conclude, something important in international competition, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and big digital companies pay their companies where the value is created, and this should be the reality in Europe as well. It can't be the case that Europeans pay their taxes, but then big international companies do not pay their taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your thoughts. And now we give the floor to Ms. Renske Maria Leighton from the Netherlands.
Hartelijk dank.
Thank you very much, sir. Innovation is very important. We're all looking forward to the future. We've got to agree, though, that technology should continue to be safe. There's the adage that public investment should lead to public gain and not private profit for multinationals, inter alia. Education should adjust and change. That's important. Yes, but we should not forget that an economy 4.0 is not going to rule out economy 1.0. We're still going to need cleaners, teachers, and other trades. Yes, it's all very well to have a modern economy 4.0, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we're going to need to make sure that everybody can be involved in society in the future, just as now. Thank you.
Thank you, Renske. And from Turkey, I give the floor to Mr. Imam Hussein Filiz.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The European Union has to invest in innovation, research and development in order to increase its competitiveness vis-à-vis its global rivals. The main tool used to invest in Europe's future is providing funding through the EU programs. Turkey has participating to Horizon 2020 and the EU Framework Program for Research and Innovation, and COSME, EU's program for small and medium-sized enterprises. EU programs strengthen Turkey-EU cooperation across different sectors such as education, science, technology, innovation, and culture. Our main motivation for being part of Horizon 2020 and COSME is collaborating with European academicians, SMEs, researchers, and industrialists to find solutions to problems of global world faced by all our countries. In reference to the speech of the representative of Greek Cypriots delivered yesterday, I would like to add that it is important to understand that the Cyprus issue dates back before the foundation of the EU. The Greek Cypriot side has entered the EU with its long-standing international problems, even though it had voted against a comprehensive settlement in 2004. For the sake of Union solidarity, the EU is now becoming a place of discussion of the Cyprus issue and the Greek Cypriots. I must tell that Turkey has legitimate rights and vital interests in the Eastern Mediterranean and keeps protecting those of the Turkish Cypriots. Turkey has been fully exercising its sovereign rights over its continental shelf in the Eastern Mediterranean stemming from the international law. And Turkey continues to stand for the peace and stability in the Eastern Mediterranean. Finally, I will say that Turkey is tackling with a very serious refugee problem. In the cities of southeastern part of Turkey, population of Syrians increased approximately to 20% of the Turkish population. And even in the city of Kilis, there are 131,000 Syrians and 93,000 Turkish population. This is a very big problem of Turkey, which will face with demographic and cultural problems in the very near future. Thank you.
Please try to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for delivering this interesting point of view. And now from Ireland, Mr. Gerald Crofwell.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much indeed. At the outset, I'd like to thank you and all here in Romania who organised an excellent Cosac. Great place to make friends and develop relationships as we go forward. The issue of education. We constantly talk about cooperation at university and third level. I'd like us to put a little bit more emphasis on further education and on lifelong learning, vocational education. One of the speakers has already mentioned it's all very well having 4.0 people, but you also need the people at the ground who can develop things. The Irish education system has continually reformed, starting with regional technical colleges to develop regional industry, moving on to institutes of technology, and now moving on to technological universities. Ireland is open and ready to accept partnerships from any universities throughout the EU and beyond. We have coding programs for children at primary school using Coder Dojo. We have the Young Scientist exhibition for second-level students. These are all part of what's involved in innovation. But going back to something I said yesterday, unless we have a centralised cybersecurity intelligence network, all of this will fall to nothing when it collapses as a result of a cyber attack. So we must put our intelligence in before we try to drive any innovation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for an excellent conference.
Thank you, and I appreciate your kind words. And now from Iceland, Ms. Auslang Arna Sigurbjörnsdóttir.
Thank you, Chair. The topic of innovation and social Europe is closely linked to the fruitful discussion we had yesterday on education. Our society depends on innovation and technology, and just as we must encourage our teachers to keep up with the ever-changing world of innovation and technology, the same applies to other fundamental sectors in our communities. As a country in the north, Iceland has, of course, been faced with the serious challenges of climate change. It is a topic that must always be at the forefront, and I'm certain that innovation and technology will play a great part in the solution. Now is the time to use our resources and combine our talents. Iceland is in many ways a startup nation. We are traditionally fishermen, always on the lookout for the next catch, forced to take risks and driven to innovate in order to maximize returns in tough conditions. Living on an island with unpredictable weather has meant that through centuries, we've had to be prepared to come up with new solutions, whether it was due to heavy snow or an erupting volcano. One should say that thinking outside the box is built in our genes. We have been fortunate to build a society which nurtures individual talent by providing true opportunity for the vast majority of the population. As we all know, progress is not only a product of brilliant individuals with genius ideas. The social context is a key factor which makes those individuals able to reach their full potential. I believe that Iceland provides some of the best conditions for talent to emerge and grow, and our main challenge today is therefore to keep fostering this talent and provide the best environment possible for our innovators to continue to succeed in the face of international competition. Thank you.
Thank you, and from Iceland as well, Mr. Jon Steindor Vladimarsson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, this topic is a very important one for us all, be it in Iceland or Romania, and it is clear that we have to work together at European level to achieve success. It so happens that today a new policy for innovation is being introduced in Iceland. It was prepared by a special committee based on a wide-ranging consultation with all major stakeholders in Iceland. And the vision or the goals of the new policy are set out to support or underpin three main things. Firstly, the quality of life, sustainability, and the prosperity of the Icelandic society as a whole. And this is based on 5 main pillars that must be strong and must be strengthened. First, it is to have or create positive mindset or mentality towards startups, innovation, and R&D, that capital and investments are directed towards innovation and startups especially, to ensure open access to markets worldwide, a supportive general framework for businesses, and to ensure that our human resources are fit to embrace the new challenges in the future, and all of this, of course, based on Icelandic culture and resources. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleague. And now from France, we give the floor to Mr. Simon Sutur.
The European Commission has highlighted the shortage of qualified manpower in the digital sector. Apparently, there'll be 900,000 job vacancies within the next few years. And this is strange because a lot of companies offer very good salary and amazing research opportunities in the private sector in particular. What should we do? We should invest in research and innovation. The European Union has come forward with a 5 billion budget for research and innovation in the next MFF. That's a very ambitious amount, and we support it. But that's only the first step. And it will only work if we can back this up with other funds from FC or cohesion funds. We need to build appropriate premises, research institutes in Europe in order to keep our researchers. I think the Commission has identified the challenge. Apparently, a sizable proportion of European citizens still don't have basic digital skills, so we need to train our citizens and we need to train more experts because they will be taking up the jobs of tomorrow. So we need to facilitate the move to innovation. The second point where we have a role to play is in relation to artificial intelligence. The European Union has launched a coordinated plan. It's not a European policy as such. It's a call to work together. And it raises a lot of issues, in particular when it comes to personal data protection. This is something that's going to change our lives. And unless we address this challenge, we will lag behind. And the European Parliament and national parliaments have a key role to play here.
Simon Sutur. And now from the Czech Republic, Mr. Adam Kalous.
Chairman, thank you for the floor. We would also like to thank you for an excellent Romanian presidency. When we talk about innovation, technological progress, it means that as the EU, we'd like to lead the global research and development. It is therefore necessary to talk about the multi-annual financial framework and about the amount of money we'd like to invest into this area, in particular in the Horizon Europe program. As a part of this program, we have to make sure that we arrange for a smooth drawdown of European money. So we need to simplify the rules and we need to reduce the administrative burden to recipients and program administrators. I agree with my colleagues from the UK that the Horizon 2020 program that is coming to an end has met the criteria that we've set out at the beginning. That is creation of jobs, facing societal challenges and improving quality of life. It is clear that research and innovation are important for the growth of European economy, so we need to follow up on the Horizon 2020 success. And that means the Horizon Europe needs to be made even better. We should interlink it better with other European programs, and we should continue to simplify the entire financial processes. And we should also improve the interchange of information with the public. The Czech Republic has published its own innovation strategy 2019 to 2030 called Country for the Future. According to this strategy, the Czech Republic will increase its investment into artificial intelligence and digitalization of government and administration and polytechnic education. From EU funds, we'd like to support the most successful research centers that may be internationally important and which will bring about the results not only for the Czech Republic but also for the entire Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. And also from the delegation of the Czech Republic, Mr. Pavel Plzak.
Chairman, thank you for the floor. Thank you for a wonderful conference. I have two comments to this discussion. Firstly, I'd like to say that yesterday somebody said that we want more people in Europe to finish their secondary and tertiary studies. But in our country, we do not have enough secondary and tertiary graduates. You know what we lack? We lack people in workman professions. Our businesses cannot develop because we do not have people to work, and we have to import labor. We have a lot of people talking about this. We have people studying universities in fields which cannot be used in real life, but we do not have construction people. We do not have people to work in the construction sector, and that is our problem. And then yet another important comment. We've mentioned that we want more people to graduate from schools. However, I believe that for somebody to be successful in studies, that depends on your willingness to study and on the fact how difficult the school is. And if we do not expect that we would be smarter in the future, I believe that the difficulties connected with completing the studies are different. We have a situation in which students back home do not want to graduate from mathematics because it's too difficult. And I'm a doctor of medicine, and I'm facing in reality the fact that nurses do not know basic mathematic operations. And do we really want to go that way? Thank you.
Thank you for your frank and direct ideas. And before giving the floor to our last speaker, I want to tell you that we will still have a few minutes in this hall for before having the coffee break, when Mr. Oprea will address us for the final remarks. Thank you. And now I give the floor to Mr. Angelos Votsis from Cyprus.
Thank you, Chairman. I will begin by saying something that we tend to say in Cyprus. Turkish observers here do not allow us to do what we intend to do. They keep on stressing about whether the Cyprus issue will be discussed at the EU level. Well, dear friends from Turkey, to make this clear, the Cyprus issue is being discussed within the EU because, as I said yesterday, first, the obligations of Turkey towards Cyprus are duties towards the EU, and they have not been met. Second point, if a country wants to join the EU family, they should respect international law, EU law, and human rights. And Turkey violates those rights both in Cyprus and elsewhere. Third point, if you want to join a family, you need to respect and recognize all members of that family. And as regards our topic for discussion, the new economy and the EU, let me make a brief statement and say that in my view, we need to focus on micro-enterprises, very small enterprises employing less than 10 persons with less than 2 million turnover, because as we say in Cyprus, those very small micro-enterprises form the backbone of the economy, and as such, they deserve support. They're businesses where our own people are employed, simple European citizens that decide to invest in our countries, and they should not depend, and they do not depend, on foreign giant enterprises. These are the enterprises we need to support as a priority, and this is what we need to do during the next few years. Thank you.
Mulțumesc și acum îi dau cuvântul.
Thank you. And now for the final remarks, let me give the floor to Minister Radu Oprea. You have the floor. Thank you very much. Of course, the debates were very substantive, and I saw keywords like the ones referring to cohesion. Let me remind you that the main motto of the Romanian presidency was cohesion and European value. But for the speakers of Portuguese, cohesion should be a European value. We also talked about the fact that personal data represents now the highest sought-after good. This is the stake of the fight among the giants at the world level. This is why together we should find a way to protect our citizens. We have spoken of circular economy. We have spoken about the need to have a correct education that will answer the necessities of today, and the needs to qualify the workforce. And it should also answer all the challenges posed by this century. We also spoke about the need to educate for traditional jobs. The social pillar was not forgotten because Mrs. Rodriguez said that the digital economy should be based on social protection. So what are all these? These are the European values that we need to use to remain competitive. We should export our values regarding climate change, regarding the fact that we need a clean Europe. But when we speak of innovation, the literature always talks about disruptive technology, disruptive innovation. What does that mean? That means that everything takes place at once, very, very quickly, and that we have a lack of time. We will not have the luxury of time because other markets develop too quickly for us. So I think that together we should be able to do this responsibly. And let me give you a very small example. We all have a smartphone. It's called smart because I noticed it's smarter than me. I used to know a lot of phone numbers by heart, but today I can barely remember my own. So it's already more intelligent than we were expecting. So what does that mean? That if we forget it at home, we feel an internal pain. So when we develop these new technologies, we should be responsible with the new customs that we create for our citizens, with the new habits. They say that change comes from within. The responsibility that we should show as politicians means that we need to be willing to embrace that change. And my question to you is, are we ready to do that? Thank you.
Oprea, I have your phone number, so we'll discuss anytime. Thank you for your contributions to this session. And now I invite you for a coffee break, then we'll meet after half an hour in this room. I want to thank the keynote speakers, Professor Remus Pricope. I want to thank Minister Radio Opera for their extremely interesting and challenging speeches, and I also appreciate the message we received from the Commissioner. I hope you will enjoy your coffee during the break, and we'll meet here in half an hour. Thank you very much.